I'm here with John Wilson, the Director of Folkestone Rainbow Centre, and we're just going to ask him a few questions about counselling and the Rainbow Centre, if that's okay.
Yeah.
First question is, John, what is your journey of trying to get funding for counselling at the Rainbow Centre?
That's quite an interesting one. It's been initially we've had funding from Kent County Council, and they have we've sort of amalgamated with a number of services that we run, and counselling has been a part of that. But over the last few years, as a number of organisations have found and charities have found, there's been a sort of curtailment of funding, which has meant that gradually we've had to subsidise our counselling service more and more, to the point now where with Kent County Council and to recommission services, we've had to look at other sources of funding, and there's quite a lot of our counselling sessions in the past have been primarily accessed by GP surgeries, and a lot of referrals from GP services as well as social services and mental health. I've been trying to seek funding through NHS sources, which unfortunately hasn't been sort of fruitful at this time. So yeah, there's definitely challenges to sort of funding counselling services, and I do think you have to be creative in that sort of process.
Okay, along those sort of creative lines, what would you suggest for a new counselling service attempting to get funding?
Well, I think it's very important if you're setting up a new service, and depending on what sort of angle or area that you're sort of looking to move into, you've got to evidence a need for that service. I think sort of at the moment sort of NHS is probably the best way of gaining sort of statutory funding, as it were, for sort of counselling projects, long-term counselling projects. But I think being able to evidence the need for it, and also as best as you can measure outcomes, so that you're quite clear on sort of what you're trying to achieve through it, and that's sometimes quite difficult to do within a counselling service, but being able to evidence or get people to feedback through feedback, self-evaluation forms, and any other sort of ways in which you can measure the effectiveness of the work that's going on in the counselling sessions, to sort of really demonstrate to funders or statutory services the effectiveness of the project, and therefore sort of continue to get funding for the project. I think that's crucial at this time. You've got to be able to, one, evidence the need, and two, be able to demonstrate measurable outcomes.
Thank you. And finally, the third question, where do you see funding for counselling practice going in the future?
I think there's certainly a move at the moment from a change from PCT's funding services, and it's a bit of in a transition stage at the moment, but looking at getting GPs or GP consortiums to fund services. So primarily I see the way in which funding will go is directly through GPs, so it will then become, depending on how the GPs or the GP consortium sort of tender or sort of have awareness of what services are out there that are appropriate to the people that they see in front of them. I see that as a good way of getting a certain amount of sessions funded through GPs for the services you're looking to provide. So I definitely see a movement away from PCT to GPs to fund services, and I think that's probably where you'd want to pitch or target in the future.
Okay, John, thank you very much for your time. Have you got anything sort of finally to add?
I think counselling is hugely worthwhile, hugely valuable, and I think particularly these times where funding is sort of very hard to come by, I think the creativity element is very important, and thinking about best outcomes for people that are using the counselling service and trying to find ways in which you can get funding for projects. And I think the more creative you are, the better chances you are of accessing money.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cheers, thanks Gary.